Hello, hello. Let's get started. Everybody want to find a seat? There's still some seats available. We have more chairs if we need them as well. Oh, this is awesome. Nice to see you all. It's like being in a living room, yeah? Well, welcome and mahalo for joining us this evening for our monthly town meeting. We thank Mark and Lynn Benioff for offering us this wonderful venue and for hosting us tonight. Their property manager, Rebecca Barnes, is here with us. Thank you, Rebecca. And Marshall is also here to support them and us. We appreciate being here. The community center is a wonderful addition to our community, and we're happy that our community has another place of faith available as we continue to celebrate diversity and choice in terms of faith-based organizations. Lucky we live, Waimea. A few housekeeping items. There's 2 restaurants up front. If you didn't notice, there's one just inside the door to the right, and then another one in a little hallway. So those are there if you need them. No photography allowed in here, please. Thank you for your kukua. We're also not allowing any food in here, so we do have bottled water. It's outside, and there's more if we run out there. Maybe Chris can watch that if there's water. Rebecca knows where the rest is. Okay, we're streaming live on our Facebook page and on YouTube channel as well. Can be found on waimeatown.org. The recording will be made available for later viewing. Happy to have those of you here who could join us in person, and thank you for taking the time. My name is Nancy Carr-Smith. I'm the president of the Waimea Community Association. I'd like to introduce the rest of the board of directors. Mary Beth Lachuk, there she is. Her and Leland Park are working tech for us tonight. Thank you both. Mary Beth is our VP. Victor Tom is our treasurer here. And next one is Ryan Oshijima, also a board member. Ronnie Olsen-Chong, our secretary, is not able to be with us this evening. Directors are Riley Smith, David Greenwell, Patty Cook, Chris Wong, I mentioned you guys before, and our newest member, Michaela Bruno. We all welcome you. If you haven't already done so, we encourage you to become a member of WCA. You can do this at the sign-in desk or on our website or by mailing a check to our P.O. box, which is on the agenda. And we appreciate your support. We have a full agenda this evening, so to keep us on track is our chief volunteer, Terry Greenwell, right here. So anyone that's speaking can watch Terry, and then we can all get out of here on time. As we continue our tradition of honoring and respecting the various faith-based groups that make up our wonderful community, tonight we welcome Kahu DJ Kiawekame, and also with him is his beautiful wife, Kehelelani, from the Keola Maloa Church, also known as Beautiful Green Church on Church Road. So we welcome you, Kahu.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Okay. Heavenly Father God, the Father God, the Son God, the Holy Spirit, I ask that you bless our meeting tonight. I ask that you be with everybody, that you bring everybody who is not here yet, if they're on their way, that you bring them safely. When we get out, I ask that you take everybody home safely. Heavenly Father, I ask that you bring your peace upon this place, Lord, that we can conduct the business that we got to conduct, and we can get across the things that we need to get across, and we can communicate in a way that we should as members of the community. I ask that you you bless everybody and you give everybody the courage and the words to get across the messages. Be with all of us with all of these things. I ask in Jesus' name, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much. All right. Next, we have an update from our Waimea Police Department. Captain Roy Valera is here, along with community policing officers, Justin Cabanti and Cui Dela Cruz.
Aloha, everyone. Aloha. My name is Roy Valera, and thank you for having us again at the Waimea Community Association meeting. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Officer Cabanti to give us some information and statistics from this previous month.
Hello, everyone. So I'll just cover the crime stats first for April. One that I wanted to share with you guys is the thefts. We did have 16 theft investigations. A lot of them, all of them were either unsecure or unlocked. Yeah, so we gotta start remembering to lock up our things. We did have 3 stolen vehicles, and again, all 3 were unlocked somehow. Next is the traffic report. Our officers in South Florida conducted 41 grants for the month of April. 17 of those were speeding, 8 seatbelts, 4 distracted driving, and 12 DUI grants. We did, however, get 6 DUIs for the month of April. There's also 9 major traffic collisions, and 2 of those were DUI arrests. Our officers did initiate 45 reckless driving investigations. Well, we had 0 fatalities. Before I turn it back over to the captain, a couple announcements. Coffee with a Cop is going to be Thursday, the 16th. It's going to be at Waimea Coffee Company, so please come by. The newsletter will be out shortly, so please watch your emails. And Mother's Day and Memorial Day coming up, so please stay safe out there. But I'll give that.
Thank you, Justin. You know, I wanted to talk real briefly about something that's very important to not only the police department, but also the fire department. And I'm sure Chief Todd will agree when I say that, well, let me start off with this. Have you ever invited someone to your house for the very first time? How many of you have ever done that? Right? Okay, we all have. We know where we live. That person doesn't know where we live. So we give them the address. And in this day and age in technology, we use some app or some feature on our phone to get there. It also helps if you give that person what? Maybe a description of the house, maybe a landmark, maybe the color of the house, or a vehicle parked in the driveway. Well, as first responders, we also need this information. And sometimes the houses aren't clearly marked with the address numbers. Sometimes we just go by hey, go past the mango tree, it's the 3rd driveway on the left. You know, it's very important for first responders to get to your residence when you are in need of help. So our recommendation is to please clearly mark your residence, maybe at the front of the driveway nearest the road, have your numbers of your address there. When you call for help, also give a description of the house and any vehicles parked in the driveway. You may also use landmarks to describe where you live. And these are very important things so that we can get to you in a very quick manner. I'm sure all of you have all of these things that we talked about, right? But for those of you who don't, please take them into consideration so that we can get the help to you as quick as we can, and also spread the message to your friends and family members. Thank you.
Great advice, Captain. So, Justin, how do people sign up for the newsletter if they don't already receive it?
Good question. So you can get with me at the back. I'll get your email address. I'll put you on our mailing list. Or WCA can also share my email address with you. You guys are more than welcome to email me directly, and I'll put you on our mailing list. Over 460 people get our newsletter, so please share it. Please share it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Okay, next we have community announcements. you folks know that there's a lot happening in this town. Lucky us. And we want to keep you aware of what's happening, but we will go through these rather quickly. How about this technology that was provided for us? This is a neat NEAT system. It's pretty amazing. The camera's up there at the top and takes in the whole room. You ready? All right, cool. The Waimea Arts Council will host a community art class at Thelma Parker Library this Saturday between 10 and noon. Next is the Kainoa Philharmonic presents Pops at Kahilo Theater on Sunday, May 5th. Next, Junior Rodeo State Finals will be at the Parker Ranch Arena starting on Friday, May 10th through that weekend. Congratulations to all who will compete. That's exciting. On March 11th, between 9 and noon, Discover Your Kuleana will host Kokua is Our Kuleana. It's a community work day at Mala'ai School Garden. Please consider discovering your kuleana. The Prince Dance Company presents On Time, Dancing Through the Wonders of Space and Time on May 11th and 12th at Kahilo Theater. Next, please support Hawaii County Police Department as they celebrate Police Week by waving signs at Church Row in Waimea on Thursday, May 16th, 4:30. Waimea Community Theater will present Mamma Mia for a 3-night performance and 1 daytime performance beginning May 16th, and that's at HPA Gates Performing Arts Center. Mark your calendar for the next Waimea Food Truck event on May 17th at CAT, organized and hosted by Naupaka Events. Kainoa Learning Center is encouraging signups for their summer enrichment program, which is open to students entering 1st to 6th grade, and deadline for sign-up is May 17th. We also have EMS Week this month. Let's help celebrate emergency medical services by sign waving with them at Church Row on May 23rd at 4:30. And the one and only Robert Casimiro is coming back to Waimea on May 25th at Kahilo. Civil Defense will be hosting a disaster preparedness fair in Hilo on June 1st between 9 and 3. And as a reminder, please support Hawaii Youth Rodeo and their upcoming fundraising golf tournament. It'll take place at Manalani on June 15th, and you can still sign up for that. Golfers, Tim. Please mark your calendars for Waimea Community Association's Primary Candidate Forum. Our forum is going to be on July 11th at Kahilo Town Hall, and it will include Mayor, County Council 1 and 9, Senate District 4, and State House of Representatives District 8, and it'll be that speed dating format that you guys like, so we wanted you to make sure you know when that is. All right, moving right along. Okay, as you know, we spotlight a local nonprofit every month, and we pass the basket and collect donations for this organization, so please be aware that basket will be passed. Tonight, I'd like to welcome Chaplain Renee Godoy from Friends of First Responders Hawaii Island to talk more about the organization's efforts, especially as it relates to supporting our first responders who are at the forefront during emergencies. Mahalo for being here. Yeah.
Just want to thank our Waimea Community Association for featuring us again and for all of their support. And because a picture is worth 1,000 words and a video is like 1,000,000, we have a video clip of some of our events, and then I'll share briefly about our organization.
Chaplain Renee Godoy, the founder and president of Friends of First Responders, We are a nonprofit organization made up primarily of former first responders or people that have some kind of connection and understanding of the unique stresses and pressures that our first responders are placed on as they regularly, on a daily basis, encounter trauma. We are committed to the health and wellness of our first responders and their families. We want to take a minute to thank all of our supporters. It takes a lot of people to make this happen. It takes a few people that give a lot and a lot of people that give a little to keep us running and keep us reaching out to first responders and their families. We are a nonprofit that is committed to the health and wellness of first responders and their families because we believe that healthy first responders mean healthy families, and healthy families make a healthy community. Your donations go a long way towards providing training for our peer support units, events that are for first responder families. In this last year, we did our first ever couples conference / retreat that its main purpose was to address the unique stresses that first responder couples face because of the career choice that they have made. This year we are planning more events like that. We're also committed to helping first responders that may have been traumatized by an event by providing emergency funds for a first responder that may need to attend a retreat or get some kind of additional help. We're also committed to doing that. And so we ask that you continue to consider supporting us and look more into what we're doing as we commit to this cause of helping our first responders and their families to be healthy and well as they deal with all of the traumatic events as they work hard to keep our community safe. So we ask that you continue to support us and help us help those who are helping us on a daily basis. Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Thank you. That gives you a little bit of an idea. Thank you for things that we do. And I want to take a minute. We don't often thank, police and fire chiefs, civil defense, all the community leaders that are going to be here on our panel. Can we give them a round of applause just for what they do? Very, very hard work. And I want to take a minute now and shift to our patrol officers, our firefighters, our paramedics, and our dispatchers that are the boots on the ground. I want you to remember that when you read something upsetting in the headlines in the newspaper about a horrific incident or something in our community, that our first responders are experiencing it in living color. I can tell you about the paramedic that held a dying child that was starved by her family and how he agonized and wished that he could have done more to save the life of that child. I can tell you about the anger of the officers that responded to that scene at the callous indifference of the family members that were there. I can tell you about the detective that had to witness the autopsy and those that have to view photos that no eyes should ever have to see. There's a story that is told in every bruise, every laceration, every external injury, every internal injury. And our police officers, our firefighters, our paramedics are exposed to that on a continual basis. They have a saying that they can't unsee it. I can tell you about the dispatcher that took the call and the word processor that had to type the reports. I can tell you that this is only one trauma, that every day our headlines are filled with events that our first responders had to respond to. Every day their wives and children worry, will daddy and mommy come home safe? Who takes care of them after they've taken care of us? So we thank you for your support. We humbly ask that you continue to support. We have posters and some information out there on the table. And again, thank you to the Waimea Community Association for having us and featuring us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate you being here. Chris and Ryan are going to be walking around with the baskets and accepting any donations that you would like to make. Thank you very much for that. Now for the main part of the evening, please welcome board member and organizer Patty Cook to tell us about the main topic for tonight. After the wildfires, emergency preparedness, lessons learned, communications, and collaboration. Patty?
Is that gonna work? Or is that? Need some adjustment.
There you go.
It's not on the screen yet, though. Okay, here we go. It's so nice to see so many of you and such a diverse crowd. Thank you for making time to be here. We have a very special mahalo, though, to the first responder officers and leaders that are here this evening. We really take, thank you. We really take our hats off to them because this takes a chunk of time out of their day to be here. So, and the other piece is what I think really Renee just talked about. This really is about our first responders, and they are our heroes. And what we're here for tonight is to talk about how we as a community can help them do their jobs better. So looking at lessons learned from the past 9 months, but really it goes way beyond that. The eruptions, the kinds of emergencies that we experience, it's not if, it's when. And how are we ready for that? So tonight's looking into that. Our special guest, we as a community association board looked at what's happened over the last 9 months and said it really is about communication and collaboration. And so tonight we will be talking about those two particular issues. And I'd like to ask our speakers to come up to the panel if we may and get started. As we're getting settled. This is an amazing group. We're so spoiled to have them. We're going to start tonight with our Chief Todd, who has joined us on previous occasions several times for town meetings. He's going to speak about his department's Kuleana. He was appointed chief in April of 21. He's going to speak about the kinds of experiences and challenges they face every day. If you saw this morning's Civil Beat, it talked about some very interesting challenges they have around volunteer department to be able to surge when they need it. So we will start with Chief Todd. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. So lessons learned, right?
Yes.
And I have 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 hours.
That's correct. Okay.
And we just finished the legislative session too. So it's
Yeah.
all of that. Where have we gone? Where have we gone? And what can we do to help you do your job better?
It's been an interesting ride. As you said, in April of 21, I was appointed fire chief. At the time, there had been a variety of people maybe interested in the position, and I felt, looking at the crowd, that I could do the best job, and the fire commission apparently agreed with that. And then suddenly I was the fire chief, and that was all my problem. About 2 months later, we had our Mono Road fire, which is one of the largest fires we've had in state history, one of the largest on this island. Supposedly, like 100 years prior, there'd been a pretty big one that had gone actually from maybe Honakaa all the way over, and may have been slightly bigger. But records are a little spotty, so I like to think that the Mono Road was one of the biggest ones. We got really, really lucky on that fire. We only lost about 3 structures, but I spent $1.2 million in bulldozers and helicopters in the course of about a week. Our budget annually to go out and procure dozing services for our fires, because we use a lot of bulldozers in Hawaii, is $30,000. So I went a little bit over budget that year, slightly. I was having a hard time paying the electrical bill for our fire stations to keep the power on because of just the way our county is structured. It was a really interesting experience, and I distinctly remember the night before, we had a fire over off of Mono Road because of our contractor, and talking to our battalion chief and saying, hey, what's going to happen? Have you got this, right? And he's like, yeah, we got dozers going around it, we got this. And I'm like, hey, tomorrow the winds are, going to be kicking up. Do we got it? Like, we need to, pretty dead, right? It's going to be bad tomorrow. And the following morning, we received a blessing going on in North Kohala for a truck from a very generous donor through the Slayer Foundation. This building might be related to that somehow. But this generous donor had given us one of these off-road tankers that will allow us to get out there. And so coming over the mountain, and I stopped at the base camp because I heard that the fires jumped the line. And we've gone from 1,000 acres at that point to about 5,000 acres are on fire. And so I'm talking to our chief, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, man, it is running hard. So I continue up, it's 10 a.m. or so, I'm up at North Kohala, we do our blessing, and I get the call from that chief, and he's like, I need everything, right? Like, we got to send it all. And that particular, I thought it was 4 hours. So this was the eye-opening side, right? It was an eye-opening side for me, for fires, that we need to do something different. And the partnerships just from that fire were pretty amazing. We had Department of Forestry and Wildlife there. We had PTA present. They brought out 4 Black Hawks from a Chinook for us. The police department was a huge partner. Civil defense is out there with us getting stuff done. And it was the group effort that really tackled it. But we move ahead 2 years, and here we are with Lahaina and our own August 8 fires. We evacuated 5 communities. We ended up losing a warehouse, 2 bridges. We had about 7 to 10 structures that had direct flame impingement that we were able to save. And again, those partnerships made a difference. But at the same time, the lessons that we've taken away from that is that it's not as simple from the fire perspective. And in the past, maybe the perspective was that, we are preparing for that 911 call, and then we're going to respond. And after August 8th, the realization has come that, the Hawaii Fire Department cannot be waiting. We've always had inspectors, we've always done inspections and things like that. But I think the bigger takeaway, the bigger lesson there is that, from at least from my department, it's not as easy as just waiting for the 911 call to come. We have to be reaching out to the community on a really deeper level to talk about how you guys are going to need to take a part in that plan to make yourself safer. How the community needs to have laws and regulations, policies, procedures, from how we do our track structure to what kind of houses are we going to allow to be built by the building code, to how do we make our community safer from having a second exit or things like that. We have to have this holistic view about fire because it's not going away. And in fact, if anything, it's getting worse as time goes by. We're seeing increases in terms of the number of weather events we're getting across the United States. We're seeing urban conflagrations that we haven't seen in 100 years. When we look back to the early 1900s, we had all these cities built out of wood, and then apparently cows kicked over a lantern or something like that, and we lost Boston. But the reality was in the past, we could lose cities because everything was just built out of wood. Today, we lose 1,000 homes because of wind-driven fires. And these homes are new, and they're built to code, but an 80-mile to 100-mile-an-hour wind will rip through a brand new community built to code and take it out in the course of a day. And in many ways, that's what Lahaina was when you look at that particular fire, is that, at noon, the fire's out, they hung out for 3 hours, 3 o'clock, it rekindles, and 3 hours later, 6 o'clock, the fire's already reached the ocean. From the top of Lahaina all the way to the bottom, hundreds of homes, and 2,200 homes are gone by the next morning. This isn't something that more firefighters is going to solve. This is something that the community as a whole, the state as a whole, has to come together. Our legislators got to come together, our politicians need to come together, our fire departments, and all of our community members, and we have to talk and have deep conversations about how do we make a difference. I think, we're trying to bring in training on like the home ignition zone, but this is about Firewise. This is about community associations. It's about these kind of meetings too. This has to be a topic of conversation. This has to be something that we move forward on. And that's one of the awakenings for us. We're looking to try and push farther into that realm where we're more proactive. We're out there with the community, but we're also involved a little bit deeper in how we look at our policies or procedures and our governing standards for structures, communities, and things like that. Whereas in the past, we've maybe not been so involved because we thought, it is what it is. These other guys with planning degrees will figure that out, right? And we've realized that there needs to be a voice there. So these are some of the lessons, at least from the fire department, that come out of our August 8th fires, is that we're just as vulnerable and that we need to do it different. It takes everybody, it takes the police department, it takes civil defense, and our partners at Department of Forestry and Wildlife and PTA, our community resilience hubs, our volunteer firefighters, you name it. All of us are going to need to be there to respond, but we also need the public as a whole to prepare and be ready, so that when the police come and knock on your door at 2 a.m. and say, you got to go, you're ready to go. It's going to be important. And so thank you for having me.
Thank you, good lessons. Next, we have Police Chief Moszkowicz, who's been in this position since December of 22. He is new to Hawaii. I mean, this is really the first time he's been to one of our town meetings. We're really glad to have you. He comes from Honolulu, where he was a 22-year veteran that served most recently with it's called the Patrol Watch Commander. No, that's not true. He was traffic division. But he's done just about everything there is you could do at the police department in Honolulu, even including technology and human resources. So it's a man with many talents and experiences. We're really glad to have you, Chief. We know that with Nixle, you're in our pockets and on our phones most every day. We hope everyone here has got Nixle. There's a form out front that will give you a QR code to sign up for Nixle if you haven't, and it's all yours, Chief.
Thank you. For those of you who have ever tried to get away from Patty Cook, there is no escape. And I wanted to come from the first invite, but there's no escape. So if she ever approaches you, just give up, and you'll be better off. In fact, if you're looking for another career, you come see me after. We're always looking for people who are dogged in pursuit of other people. I mean that in the best possible way, because I mean, you look around and you look at the caliber of people you have sitting up here to my left and right, and this is it. I mean, these are the decision makers, right? These are the agency heads in the county. These are the people who are going to make decisions that are going to impact the whole island in this particular community. The first thing you said was Nixle, which I wrote down. So Nixle is a solution that we have relied upon for a lot of years in the county. And it's a little bit of a disjointed approach. I mean, it works for what it is, but you can sign up for the police department Nixle alerts, or you can sign up for the civil defense Nixle alerts. So I don't know if Talmadge is planning on talking about this or not, but I'll just spoil it for him. Take some of his minutes, he can have my extra minutes. But the county is actually in the process under Talmadge's guidance of moving forward with a unified notification system. So we're going to try to push everybody towards one system. And while the RFP hasn't been produced and nothing's gone out to bid yet, I've had a chance to look at some of the specifications, some of the things that the system will be designed to do. And it's right up the alley of some of the lessons learned from Maui. It'll allow the county, once fully contracted and authorized and it's in place in several months to a year, it'll allow the county to send targeted messages. We can draw, take a map and draw a boundary, and all the users that are in that particular location, we can send a specific message. So that ability to send direction or notification or keep people updated about something specific in your community is I think, a very powerful tool moving forward. And what I kind of wanted to talk about with the rest of my 7.5 minutes is the Maui Police Department, after the Maui wildfires, came out with a 98-page after-action report just regarding the police department and what their members did and what they learned, lessons learned. And that came out, gosh, maybe a month or two ago. It came out really quick. If you're interested, you can visit their website at mauipolice.com and download it. I think there's a link on their front page. It's 98 pages, but it actually, it goes through the events of that day and how the police department has evolved. And they come up with 32 recommendations, which for us, I mean, if you want to talk about lessons learned in terms of recommendations about Hawaii law enforcement and what Hawaii law enforcement can do better in a Maui wildfire type situation, this is a blueprint. So this is actually a gift. That's how I look at it. So some of the recommendations on here are in this second realm of things that I think you've heard, and you will probably hear from the rest of the presenters, is that we've been very lucky. But at the same time, I don't want to discount the fact that we're also very prepared. There's a lot of information and collaboration and practice and work that goes on every day that the public doesn't see. I have a bit of a unique perspective. As Ms. Cook mentioned, I came from the Honolulu Police Department, and I've had the opportunity to sit in the city EOC for major events, marathons, tsunamis. I was actually part of the group that planned, what's that?
Missile alert.
Missile, no, I was off that day. But, oh yeah, you gotta give me way more than 8 minutes if you're gonna provoke me. Missile alerts, etc. I was actually part of the group that planned the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation in 2010 and 2011. So I was on the 10-member group that did all of the planning with all the partners. And what I can tell you from that perspective, and then unplugging from there and plugging in here, there hasn't been a lot of EOC activations in the year and 4 or 5 months that I've been here, but the ones that I've seen are at a caliber that exceed what's going on in Honolulu in terms of collaboration. They clearly have a much larger facility. They have a lot more video screens. There's probably a lot more money and technology built into their command center. But that notwithstanding, I don't think in terms of a contest, and you'd never want one, Hawaii County is very well prepared in terms of the relationships that already exist between the people who are sitting at this EOC. So the EOC, for those of you who don't know, when there's an event, there's a mass casualty event, there's a tsunami warning, there's a high surf warning, Talmadge flips the switch, the bat light goes up, so to speak, the text message goes out, and representatives from these agencies all meet in one place in Hilo. And it's luckily outside of the tsunami zone now. Yeah, I think they redrew the map, but that's okay. It's actually attached to the police station, so we just walk over. You guys gotta drive. But the relationship that those people have in that room is amazing, and the ability to get something done is incredible. When something needs to be done, reports come in from the field, and a conversation happens amongst people who can make decisions and who can dedicate resources and allocate resources, and then that message goes straight back down to the people on the field to make sure that those resources get devoted quickly. So, like I said, lucky is good. We'll take lucky any day. But don't mistake the fact that this county is not prepared in a way that many other counties might not be, just in terms of looking at these recommendations. Some of the specific recommendations that my department is trying to pursue that are actually consistent with Maui's experience, one of them is to hire a social media manager. So in Maui, and this is kind of during the event, but more so after the event. And whatever that event is, whether it's a fire or a mass casualty event or a tsunami or flooding or a volcano eruption, whatever it is, the need for knowledge and the need for information is very real, right? And so to have one kind of unified voice or one place that people can turn, and having the ability for us to have a professional who has that experience to send messages in the right place at the right time and to keep that message consistent is very important. So that's actually one of the things that I think our council member got in her budget that she got handed today. Hopefully one of the 10 positions she supports for our department is another social media manager, basically, that we're trying to add July 1st. The other things that are on here, a lot of them I didn't even bother to mention or bring up because we're already doing them. One of them is that one of the lessons learned from Maui is during an EOC activation to provide a senior officer stationed within the communication center to work with dispatch and relay information back and forth. We already do that. All the county departments do that already. But one of the cool things that I wanted to mention as my time slowly runs out is in the coming months, in June, late June, we're gonna get the keys, we the county are gonna get the keys to a new emergency call center that's located on Mo'uli Street in Hilo, just above Komohana. So a couple blocks south of the main police station. And there is a bit of a rivalry, since I have about 45 seconds left, between Chief Todd and I, and firefighters in general, and the trunk washing, and then the people who fight crime, right? You had your chance, and now it's mine. So there's a bit of a rivalry. It's a friendly rivalry. It's much like a sibling rivalry. We both want the same thing. We just disagree over who does a better job, which is good, because who's the winner? You guys are the winners because we're competing to both do the job better. But when this facility was designed, I don't know how many years ago, a long time ago, it was designed in a big room like this and a cinder block wall down the middle. And police were to be on one side and the fire dispatchers were to be on the other side. So through a sequence of events, the fire dispatchers were to a point in their staffing where they felt like they couldn't operate a separate center. This is about 8 months ago. So we invited the fire dispatchers to our kind of cramped basement dispatch center to kind of help alleviate their emergency. And the relationships that have formed and the collaborative partnerships, just from people sitting in the same room, have developed to the point where the dispatchers told us, look, when we put the councils in, don't put the fire guys over there, put them next to us, which that's really cool. And nothing that we expected would happen. But so lucky, but prepared.
Good job. And after that, Talmadge, you have a big act to follow. But that was quite a compliment too of the Civil Defense Department. we live with civil defense, many of us, in our pockets, on our phones, on our emails every day. There's a tremendous amount of communication that comes out of civil defense. If you're not on one of those programs, you really should be. And they're even on AM, FM radio, and they have a hazard map. But recently, some of us visited the EOC, and we're actually told and sort of surprised that it doesn't operate 24/7. So there's definitely challenges that they have to be able to deliver what we need. So Talmadge, it's all yours. He's been here before. We all know Talmadge Magno as our Civil Defense Administrator.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Glad to see all you folks here. One of the requests was, how can the community, continue to get better? And I think just all you coming together, community meetings, joining CERT, just being together in your community is a big part of it. Being able to know who your neighbors are, what your vulnerabilities are, just having that familiarity with it in your community is critical. Nothing real special, but just making sure you guys come together is a start as far as being prepared. So following what these two chiefs were just talking about, a little bit sibling rivalry, and I got to coordinate this in the EOC. These two departments have to sit together, but they do pretty well. But anyway, he's right, and I guess the organization, the teamwork that this county has evolved long before I came to civil defense. And I always say that Harry Kim was the first civil defense administrator, and it kind of started with him. It definitely was solidified when he became mayor, and with that level, he pretty much put civil defense at the forefront of the county operation. And so, with that and my predecessors in the administrative position, we just nurtured what Harry Kim started. And unfortunately, all the departments kind of maintain that in our county. And so we're pretty fortunate that we have that situation, and a lot of people point that out to us, but we don't take it lightly, and we continue to nurture that, thinking that it's important. So as far as August 8th, those fires that we had, fires that happened on Maui, and even prior to that, when we have forecasted hazards approaching us, we're able to get messages out, reach out to the community. But these kind of incidences are sudden onset. When it's sudden onset, that's probably the most critical kind of situation where you're gonna have to rely on everything that you've done to prepare for this. And what becomes evident is that people did not understand the different alert programs that are out there. So one, they need to know that, but knowing that is only part of the being prepared. You have to have your plans. You need to know what you're going to do upon being alerted. So we realize, and I'll continue this. This will be a big part of our going forward. It'll be part of our disaster preparedness fair on June 1st. We'll have all the subject matter experts to talk with the folks. So I really urge you guys to come. I think it'll be a good fair. But anyway, the national system, the integrated public alert warning system is available for us to use, which includes the emergency alert system, messages that you receive on your TV and your radio, and you have the wireless emergency alert system is what you get on your cell phones. So that's the national system. Somebody brought up the missile alert. That was sent out on the WIA system. That's all part of our tool bag. And what was talked already about Nixle, that's our mass messaging system. It is a voluntary sign-in system. And that's the downside of it. You gotta be proactive, sign in, and so forth. The iPause system is a push alert. Everybody gets it. Unless you've turned off your alerts on your cell phone, you will get that emergency alert. So those systems, we've incorporated our hazard map to try to keep people updated. Our Everbridge message, which is like the Nixle, same vendor, different program, but we push out email, text messages, phone calls, landline, cell phones, let's see, Facebook and X. And also recently, the council folks also have accepted our messaging, our Facebook messaging to go out on their platforms as well. So we're continuously trying to expand our outreach. But we recognize that not everybody goes to those forums. So we try everything. And that's where you guys come in. You need your plans once you get alerted, to the point that you need to know your community so well that you know who's vulnerable in your community. What neighbor is going to need help in evacuation? What neighbor doesn't have the resources to get information that you might have to go knock on the door and say, did you get this alert? Do you know this hurricane is coming? So forth. And so together we can make that happen. But you guys are a big part of it. We're a big part of it. And to come together, I think we can make it happen. So that was my discussion about the alerts and planning. Couple of things that I brought that I wanted to point out to you. Part of the planning is the Ohana plan. Our community emergency response teams have put together this Ohana plan that we've had out there for multiple years, but still good. So I brought some, so make sure you can use them. They're also on our webpage. You can download them off of our webpage. This other flyer that I brought has all the QR codes, and it describes what alerts you can get via those QR codes. Just trying to get the message, the education, the information out to everybody so that we can get on the same page and be ready for any disaster. Thank you.
Thank you. The flyer for the fair that they're hosting on June 1st is on the Facebook page and our website. So if you really want to know more and haven't seen it yet, it's there on the Facebook page and on our website. Next we have Lieutenant Colonel Tim Alvarado. I'm skipping over a little bit there. From Pohakuloa training area. He's been with us, or he's been commander there for 10 months, but no stranger. He's been to town meetings several times and frequently participates in community events, including our recent Resilience Fair that we had a few months ago, brought his whole gang down and a whole bunch of assets. And I've discovered that fire trucks and helicopters are assets. And that's really why he's here tonight, because it's for us to be hopefully understand Pohakuloa is a major asset in our backyard, and the kinds of capacity that they can bring to the table with Chinooks and things that I don't know what they are, Black Hawks. But we're happy to have you, Commander, and with him is his fire chief, who's a new there, Michael Deal. We'll have you two speak. Thank you.
I got a red light. So. There we go. All right, I got it working. So, good evening, everybody. As Patty had mentioned, Tim Alvarado, commander up at Pohakuloa training area. Thanks for having me tonight. Great to be a part of this great panel here. I know we work with a lot of the folks that on this side of the building, Chief Todd, Chief Moszkowicz, and Talmadge and team. But I just want to provide what it is we do as far as the military. I can't speak on behalf of the National Guard, but I can kind of at least provide some information as what kind of Patty alluded to is what we really bring to the table. And in that role, we really are ultimately just in a supporting role. These guys really are the heroes down here, all the way down on this side of the table. We are supporting in anything that's localized in a natural disaster role. So one kind of really quick point of clarification for us, as you all may be familiar, we have two different titles of authorities that we work with for us as far as the military. Title 10 for us is active duty, which is myself. and then Title 32, which is basically the National Guard who really directs support to the state and the governor. So those two roles, I'll kind of explain that as we go along in my 7.25 minutes left. But I think that's important because again, it goes back to that supporting role of what we can provide in terms of what we are authorized to provide in support of the state and the federal government. But in terms of that, we really have 3 different layers or tiers, is what I like to call it, levels of response and aid that we provide, both to the county, to local, state, county, and all the other federal agencies that get involved, such as FEMA. So the first level of support that we provide, this is kind of locally with my fire department, Fire Chief Deal, at the kind of ground level, if you will, which is basically a mutual aid agreement that we have with Hawaii County Fire Department. So that's kind of really day-to-day operations that we kind of help out with. So if there's a wildfire, and I'll stick with just wildfire for this conversation, any wildfires that are out there, we basically are able to provide that mutual aid in conjunction with the county, whether it's on our areas or off of base. So, and that's very localized. That's ongoing. That agreement's already in place, and we continue to do that whenever there's a need. The other kind of tier 2 is what I like to call really my level of authority I have as the commander here at the installation is immediate response authority. So basically that would come from folks at the county. The mayor would reach out to me as a civil authority request to provide some additional capability. So on top of the fire department, that kind of tier 2 would just add additional capabilities, capacity, and as Patty had mentioned, assets to the fight. Just like August 8th of last year, when we had the fires here in Waimea and Kahala, we were able to request for more additional Chinooks, Blackhawks to be able to bring some of the Bambi buckets or the water drops here. Unfortunately, we couldn't use them because the winds are so high. That's another level of risk that we've got to be able to calculate in the calculus because obviously those aircraft are pretty valuable to that situation, so we don't want to put them in harm's way when there's high winds or whatnot. But they were on standby that day, both the supporters here on the Big Island as well as over on Maui. But again, unfortunately, the winds were too high for them to be able to be employed properly. And then really the third tier, kind of the more comprehensive, more robust response. This is kind of when there is a true state of emergency, is really the disaster response mission assignments that go through the state, through what is called the dual status commander. I believe General Logan was the dual status commander at the time during Maui and Lahaina. So in that kind of regard, at that level where FEMA's been kind of notified, we've got civil defense activated, EOC's up and going. That's kind of where the military writ large is kind of brought into the fight. Both the National Guard, again, at the Title 32 realm, where they are able to support the governor directly, and then the Title 10, where the active duty folks like myself, the Marines, the Air Force, and the Navy, or even the Coast Guard for that matter, can come in and provide those capabilities to whatever's requested. So again, that's kind of the supporting role. It has to go through the channels, so that it will get cycled through the defense coordinating element. That'll go through some other folks. But ultimately, it would become us being able to provide or fill a gap for folks like FEMA. So if FEMA's got a gap that they can't fill or shortfall for things like additional aircraft, we could essentially build, we as the military could essentially build an air bridge, which is basically an interstate between the islands, flowing people, equipment, aid, things like that back and forth. Because FEMA doesn't have aircraft that they can do that readily available. So they kind of look to the military to help support that role. Other things like water purifiers, construction equipment, other logistical support in that nature. So that's kind of where we fit in during those times of disaster. But one thing I will talk on and just kind of dogpile on what the other gentlemen have talked about before is really that collaboration piece. I think is important because for us, really the 3 Ps, prevention, planning, and practice. So we talk a lot about the prevention. For us, working through folks like DOT, helping build fire breaks along the roadways, planning, being integrated with the team here, both chiefs in the civil defense team, other organizations like the Hawaii Wildfire Management Office, making sure that there's commonalities there. Really the big thing is the common objectives. If we don't have common objectives, we all go sideways and we get outside of the line and things start to get disrupted. And then really clear roles and functions, so everyone knows their job when in the time of event that comes up, and it's always emergent. We can go back to the plan, like Talmadge had mentioned, and everybody knows where they need to fit in, to include the community as well. So that planning and that practice is important. Rehearsals are always important in the military, but rehearsals here locally in the community at the county level is important as well, because the drills, just muscle memory is important of being able to go through that. You don't have to pull the book and go through the checklist. You just kind of know what to do. And just like right now, we're going through a hurricane exercise across the Hawaii Islands in the military, just so that we know what it is that we need to be doing and how do we bring those capabilities to bear. A couple of things I'll just highlight as my time is draining away. Right now, like, we are also providing some training opportunities. I know Chief Dill and the team and Chief Todd working through some wildland fire training up at PTA currently. Some of the other initiatives that we got going on. I'm expecting to get a D9 dozer in the near future to help out with things like fire breaks, as we hopefully, unfortunately, don't have to worry about if we do get wildfires here, that we could potentially support the county with. And then some other things that'll help us in the data analytics pieces, working with University of Hawaii to get some additional weather sensors out there. I know we've got a lot of land there in the middle of the Saddle region, so working with some of those projects to be able to get those sensors, get that real-time weather in those conditions, so that, again, we can have the prevention and all those capabilities out there for that early warning and whatnot for the county. So, but thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
Could we ask for maybe 1 minute from Mike? And it's really about the emergency response on DKI Highway, which is also 24/7.
So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So as she's talking about the emergency response on DKI Highway, that goes in with our mutual aid agreement that we have with the county. So we work well together, responding up there. That becomes one of our primary response zones from the time that you get on DKI until you're getting off at DKI almost. It's about mile marker 15, 16 in that area. That's kind of our primary response to mutual aid. So we work really well together with the county. We're responding. They're also sending assets for any emergencies that are responding along that roadway. So again, as what's kind of been talked about through here in the panel, it's all collaboration and teamwork that we have and the training that we do together to make sure that we're ready to respond and provide the best service that we can for you guys.
Thank you.
And then since Chief Todd doesn't have any more time, I'll just have to say that we know that fire is always on the best side of it. But thank you.
I knew it was coming.
It is a little competitive. The next two speakers wear slightly different hats. First, we have Kainoa Stafford. He is with the Hawaii Islands Safety and Security Professionals Association. Many of us didn't know about that organization until a few months ago, and we'll let Kainoa tell us about it, what they do and what their kuleana is, but it's very relevant to tonight's focus on communication and collaboration, because HISSPA works around the clock with the police and the fire and civil defense on first responder issues. They are representing and work with the resorts, the businesses, the homeowners, and the landowners down along the Pohakuloa coast. And of course, so many of those are our family, friends, neighbors, the businesses that live in this area and are part of our ohana. So Kainoa, it's all yours.
Hello, my name is Kainoa Stafford. I'm the Director of Safety and Security at the Waikoloa Beach Marriott. Current president of the Hawaii Island Safety and Security Professionals Association. And thank you for inviting me here to talk and sit among such broad-shouldered, distinguished people. Again, Hawaii Island Safety and Security Professional Association, we are made up primarily of the security directors, security leadership, risk managers for the Pohakuloa coast. Represent most of the resorts. So you guys know, if you guys didn't know, we are the ones that prepare for disasters in if a disaster happens that affects the entire island, we are the ones that service the guests who are here. So those 300,000 guests at any given time, 20,000, 15,000, we keep them at our properties so they don't end up at our community areas, taking our community resources. So they come here, they stay with us, and if a disaster happens, if we have a hurricane, if we have a tsunami, we are prepared to ride out the storm where we're at, depending on of course, what our public officials advise us. So HISSPA is an organization that collaborates with police, with fire, with civil defense. Talmadge, I think he hides his phone every time I call him. We collaborate with all of these organizations, not only to prepare ourselves as organizations, but also to offer assistance as needed. So if we have an event where we have to evacuate a lot of people, for those people who were being displaced or were being evacuated out of Pohakuloa village from our fire that started at Mana Road, the hotel opened for our hotel. The call went out to all the hotels. If you have families, if you have associates, if you have people who are evacuating and need a place to go, then these hotels are open. That's kind of what HISSPA does. We offer to our membership training opportunities. So we have Cap and his team, Justin back there, they come in, they come and give their same police reports that they give to you guys. We are able to answer questions, ask questions, get information, spread that to our associates. For you guys who have family and friends who work at the hotels, HISSPA collaborates so that we can, even though we're all in competition with each other, as far as, getting people to stay and our business, most of us collaborate with each other. And when your resources are needed, when there's any type of emergency along the coast, we're all connected to help each other out. And answer that question, for us it's been great because if we have a question of civil defense, we can get together, we can ask, and civil defense will answer that question. And same thing when civil defense needs eyes on the shoreline to see what the current sit rep of an event is. They'll call us and we'll let them know, okay, it looks all clear here, and then we'll all report out. So it's that kind of collaboration. And again, in an emergency event, of course, we all need to be ready and prepared. And but we, as an organization, as security professionals, can at least let Talmadge know what our current situation is, and maybe they don't need to send so many resources to this area. It frees them up to go someplace else because they know that we're okay at that point. So having those conversations and setting up those plans ahead of time is kind of what HISSPA does. We just had our civil defense meeting in April, and they got their place is now renovated. Before that, they were down at Tisali's, and no matter, if you guys ever go to Tisali's, no matter what, anytime, no matter what's going on in there, it always smells like a luau. Every time, it could be full. Like, civil defense had a full meeting space in there. It still smelled like somebody was making luau or steam or something. But anyway, oh yes, there you go. But it was good to see them back in their back at their home. I remember Talmadge was talking about Harry Kim, and I remember when I first joined HISSPA in 2015, we had, I believe it was 2016, we had a meeting, well, the last meeting that was before all of this COVID stuff happened, and Harry Kim was still in office, and if you guys know Harry, he's not bashful about using words, but he always would tell all of us, including everybody who was there at Civil Defense, about how important being prepared is. And he used some choice words, but that's how he was. He's very straightforward, which I appreciate. But we got scoldings, because that's how he was. We got a lot of scoldings, but what he was getting across, I think everybody should know. The more that you can prepare for something that probably is going to happen once in your life, prepare for that thing. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. The Civil Defense, they have great resources. If you guys haven't taken advantage of that yet, please do. If you guys have a community resilience hub, like we have here in Waimea, or you have the opportunity to join CERT, those are all great things that can help your community, and it just helps you be prepared so you can help somebody else. But thank you
very much. And lastly, our final presenter, I think many of you know her from many hats that she wears, but tonight she's wearing the Waimea Resilience Hub hat. She is with Hawaii Community Foundation. She had a big hand in helping the hub of hubs, the group of hubs around this island get started, really as a result of the eruptions. So a big believer in community involvement and collaboration and supporting each other. She's here tonight really because our chair is sick, and we hope he's feeling better, and I'm sure he's watching and making sure we're behaving. But Diane is going to talk about what the hub is doing to build connectivity and collaboration. It's all yours.
Thank you, Patty. Nope. Hello. Aloha. Thank you, Patty. So I hope that you've heard about the Waimea Resilience Hub. We've been trying to be really active in this community. We are part of the Vibrant Hawaii network of resilience hubs. There are over 40 of them around the island, and we meet monthly to hear what each other are doing. And each community is, really focusing on specific things that their community needs. So our community, we actually had a resilience fair last fall. And you might remember that Max Iona came and talked to everybody about that fair to encourage people to come. There are a lot of people were there. There were a lot of resources there to help people understand how to be prepared, as everyone's talked about, and what to do in times of emergency. So one of the things that we have done is surveyed the community to find out what is the need here for our Waimea community. And some of that has been in working with people who actually have already been helping in times of emergency. And one of the things that we heard a lot was, well, yeah, people here help when there's an emergency. They rally food, they get out there with their bulldozers, there's a lot of help. But we don't know what each other are doing. And so there could be duplication of effort, or there could also be resources that are available that some people know about, but other people don't know about. So what we're trying to do, actually, I was getting phone calls for the Mono Road fire saying, we have money, we want to help. Who should we give it to? And I was like, I don't know who's doing what. So I drove down to Hawaiian Homes Hall and talked to Mike Hodson. But there were, as I say, we just need to be able to communicate better across the community. And so that's what our hub has been working on. We're working on We Can, and We Can stands for the Waimea Emergency Communications Awareness Network, because together we can do this. So that was Max who came up with that. So let's see, as a result, okay, so we've done the weekend. So what we are doing for the weekend is we started out with finding people in the community who will serve as points of contact. And right now we have over 55 people who have agreed that if we send them a message, they will turn around and send that information out to their networks. So to their schools, to their parents, to their congregation, to their employees, to the members of the canoe club. So what we're doing is trying to just amplify the messaging, because as I think Talmadge said, not everybody gets the message. You need to sometimes just go to your neighbors and knock on the door. I signed myself up for my neighborhood, and I don't really even know my neighbors, but it kind of said to me, I need to go out and get to know them so that when something happens, I get the word, I'm going to go down the street and tell people what's happening. That's what we're trying to do, is build those relationships so that people know that if something is happening, turn on your phone, your radio, listen for the information, and get ready. So let's see. So we've got these people that we have signed up who said they're willing to be the point of contact, and now we're using technology to actually get the message across. And so one of the things is that we have a Starlink that's going to be purchased. Well, let me just go back to the technology. And it says here on this layered technology. And we really want to thank the volunteers who are a part of our hub. We have some really great expertise. Max Davis, who is the chair of the Waimea Resilience Hub, works for KEC, and he's their emergency planning person. He's experienced in emergency response. We have Bill Wicking from HPA, who knows all about Starlink, and is helping us to figure out what we need to do for that. And then we also have Mark Netzel from HPA, who is helping us to work with Crisis Go. So that the technology is going to be that we use Crisis Go, which is an app that's used by HPA to notify their students, teachers, parents. We're going to be setting it up to notify the points of contact. And then if we, at times when the power is out or cell phone service is out and we don't have that, then we will be working with handheld radios. And again, Bill Wicking has expertise in that, and so we're trying to figure out who would have radios and how would we get that information out into the community. And then finally, the Starlink is very is helpful when all of the power cell service is down, and we want to get information outside, like they did in Maui. People didn't know who had survived because they couldn't get information outside of the area. So we are going to have Starlinks. We have, thanks to some funding that we've gotten from 100 Women Who Care in North Hawaii, the Waimea Community Association, gave when Max talked. We've gotten funding from the Richard Smart Fund. Vibrant Hawaii is helping. So we've been able to, we're purchasing a Starlink that's going to be put on the roof at Tutu's house. And once it's ready, then we're going to activate our points of contact WeCan network. One of the things we're also working on is actually figuring out what are the types of emergency that we would activate, that we use the WeCan for. What kind of format would we actually give those messages so that they're clear and simple. So once we're ready with our Starlink, we've got our points of contact, we'll have our app for the Crisis Go. We're going to be testing it in the community to say, okay, let's test it out, and everybody can come to Tutu's house parking lot and test out Starlink to see if you can link in and get into the internet from sitting in your car in the parking lot. We also have a number of organizations in town that are going to be having Starlinks for their use of their organization, but are willing to make that available in times of emergency so that they can allow public to use it. So our Kuleana really has been about strengthening these relationships, that we've been talking about here, building the relationships, the connectivity, sharing that information, as he mentioned that, people want to know. That's what they're hiring that social media person for. We need that kind of help too. How do we get this information out? How do we help build the relationships so that people know the people in their community who needs help? Also, in addition to it, first it's going to be just an alerting building awareness. But that network can also be used in times of when there's an event that lasts longer and we need to actually let people know where food, water, supplies, debris removal help, all those kinds of things can also be spread out, that information through the network. So if you're interested in learning more about the Waimea Resilience Hub or joining our core team or being a point of contact, please contact Patty or me. So thank you for having us here tonight.
We will put you to work if you call me. And actually, one of the pieces that we're working on is also the protocols, because our job, we're not first responders. We're going to be amplifying what the first responders are sharing out. So whether it's police, fire, civil defense, it's not us initiating things for the most part. It's really amplifying what is already out there and helping make sure that there is the word is awareness. And that was really something Bill Wicking has been teaching us. Awareness is our job, to try to make sure we communicate with people. Also that we know who's in our neighborhood who might be vulnerable, doesn't have a car, is disabled, is not able to actually, maybe just disconnected and have the drapes closed and they don't know what's going on. So it's kind of a big undertaking. It's pretty daunting for a volunteer group, but we do welcome you if you're interested to join the group. It's a really good group. We do have a couple of members here too. Chris Hawkins is working with us on protocol, and of course Bill on all of our technology. And now we really have a few minutes for questions. Are there any questions?
I was going to do my spiel first. That's okay. So yeah, just before we get to Q&A, I just wanted to share some exciting news. Some of you may have heard yesterday because it was in the news, but we're going to get a emergency shelter here in Waimea at the Waimea District Park. So next, please. You might remember 2014, 2015, the phase 1 of the district park was planned, and part of it was left out because of lack of funding. Next, please. So on the left is that covered play court that is there, and it's a wonderful space, but the building to the left or to the right of that on the map here is a multi-use community building that was planned as part of phase 1 and wasn't built. So during the time of the fires, the community realized that we were kind of pressing our luck and we really need to get something built so that our extended community can use it during emergencies. So our extended community really is quite large if you think about it. We take in the coastal areas and Pohakuloa Village, and can be North Kohala, can be Hamakua. We're a big area as well as Waikiki. So our community needs something. And so we dusted off these plans. Well, I went to Parks and Rec and said, what are we gonna do? And they said, well, we've got this building, let's work with it. So we're dusting off the plans, redesigning it a little bit, hardening it more, bringing it up to code. There's been 2 code changes since then. And we needed some seed money to get that repackaging of the plans so that they would be ready for permitting. And so we found that. We found wonderful private money. And so that's in the works. The plans are going to be redrawn, and we'll be getting estimates. Next, please. Oh, yes. So I couldn't miss an opportunity to remember Billy Kainoa. Next, please. I had to put that in. So this is the building that was designed. It'll be very similar looking to this. It's low-lying, it's beautiful, it's going to be wonderful. Next, please. And we are just going to change a few things. It's a big room in the middle. It's meeting rooms on the one side. we'll be able to have board meetings and town meetings and senior activities and KP activities. It'll be wonderful. And it'll be equipped as an emergency shelter as well. Sorry? Yes, so we're adding showers. A very wise woman told me, why don't we have showers in this? If it's an emergency, don't we need showers? Yes, we do. So we experienced last August when National Guard came to town, and they were here to help, but there was nowhere for them to sleep or bathe. So what a concept. So we're gonna change that around a bit. And yeah, so next, please. So it's gonna be a public-private partnership. We're already in touch with all these people that are possible funders. US Rep. Jill Takuda is working on it. This week, Senator Brian Schatz's office said that they will work on it as well. Senator Richards, Rep. Tarnas, and Mayor Mitch Roth is also very much on board, and he instructed Parks and Rec to work with Civil Defense as well to see if there's any kind of funding there. And we also have private money if we need it. So hopefully it will be not too much of a burden on any one group. That's the idea, and everybody's excited, and we're going to break ground next year. Deal with Q&A, and I will walk around and. All right, Brooke, stay on top.
I took my pills. So, first of all, this whole presentation brought tears to my eyes when you explained. So, Kainoa, it used to be the Hotel Association, and we created the Hawaii Hotel Security Association from that.
Yeah.
So, that's awesome. When Talmadge talked about my mother's brother, Harry King, you know, if you know him and I, we still get ruffles in the feathers. A lot of the implementations for, you know, for the response, we still need work. We need a lot of work still, okay? And as far as collaboration is concerned, all of the departments, we gotta go after funding that allow us to take your expertise and share it with the community. You gotta have, so in 1983, when San Francisco had that earthquake, all of this discussions happened. So that's why, you know, we started in 84, creating the emergency systems. We made legislations, right? We went statewide, FEMA took them federally. It's now across the country, and Harry King took it to France, to the United Nations. And you know, the UN, their baseline emergency system is from Hawaii. So when I listen to you guys talk, I tear up because I didn't realize I'm freaking old.
An easy one. We do have Gunnar over here. Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, Gunnar Mensch, I'm the chair of the South Kohala Traffic Safety Committee, and I know many of you here. But I have a question mostly for Talmadge. We had a situation happen a few months back, and it came up at one of our meetings. We meet every second Tuesday. We're meeting down in Waikoloa next week at the center down there, Village Association Center. But the airport was closed suddenly, and there was no notice to the public. There was coconut wireless. There were a few messages that got out to people on Facebook and things like that. But the airport division is not linked in, to our understanding, with the Nixle system or anything else. Is there any way to link that up? So if there's an emergency airport, we had thousands of people going to the airport, could not get out, had to go back, arrangements made, it was a weak link in the system. If there's something that can be added to that, to add airports to the communication. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Here.
Thank you for the question.
Question.
Yes, thanks for the question. I know the frustration anytime there's a change in people's schedules and disruptions.
I have a question.
We like to work with our partners, in this case, DOT, airports. If we see a need, we'll ask people, we'll reach out. Do you want us to put out a message for you? And some organizations decline our offer. We understand that they have their protocol. They are a state-run agency, and so they kind of push things up through Oahu. And so if it was, we'll have to work out I guess the procedure, if that's going to happen. We are aware of what's going on. In fact, I think when that happened, Kainoa folks, his group, the HISSPA group, was in our EOC, and we were able to share with them what was going on. So they right away
shouldn't matter what island you are on. And the intent behind that text 911 system was primarily for people that couldn't call but needed emergency services. So you're in a situation where you can't get on the phone because of maybe domestic issues or other things like that, but you need to call for help. So if they're running into issues, they can always reach out to the fire department. I know the police department would also be entirely acceptable to reach out to. And give us the information, and definitely we'll set up a meeting and everything else like that to try to figure it out.
Thank you.
Yes, aloha. My name's John Fishback. First, I want to thank all of you for your service to the community. And this preparedness session, I think, is essential. There's one thing that I did not hear about, and I'm just going to read something from this. How food secure is Hawaii if natural disaster strikes? Commercial food stocks are only enough to support the Hawaii population, plus visitors, for 5 to 7 days. 30 days starvation. So right now, the Jones Act allows, most do not. They all go through Mexico, South America, Asia goes through the West Coast. I'm recommending that the governor or whoever make some kind of preparedness planning in the event we get an earthquake in California that shuts down one or more ports. We only have the port of Honolulu big enough to bring in enough food to supply the islands, so that we just have a plan in effect with the maritime services that through the Jones Act, we start directing the companies to come straight to Hawaii, since they can't land in California. And it is just a plan, and it might hopefully never happen, but it's better to have a plan in writing than nothing at all. So thank you again.
It's a very good suggestion, thank you. Just a second, James, I got one right back here. We'll take a few more and then
Can I
we need
address
to
that?
wrap it up. Sorry?
Can I address those concerns?
Sorry?
Can I address those concerns about food
Briefly, please, very briefly.
So state emergency management, they recommend 14 days if you can handle that. I know 14 days is a lot of financial output, plus it takes up a lot of room. So they recommend 14 days. The state and the counties were always working with, you know, the distributors, the warehousers, and in fact, this year's national level exercise focusing on hurricanes talks about the harbor security and resiliency. And so it's always a subject on our minds.
So we have 14 days.
If you can do 14 days, yes, because that kind of helps us stretch out how much the government will have to support folks that don't have 14 days. And that's the tactic behind that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question for whoever wants to answer it. I have Everbridge on my phone because when I searched for Nixle, that's what came up and all that came up. Does that mean I have Nixle?
So Nixle is a company that got bought by Everbridge. So if you're receiving alerts or you want to sign up for alerts, if you go to Everbridge, that would be the right portal now. The company changed names. A lot of people don't know the name Everbridge, so we use both in our messaging. But yeah, Everbridge is Nixle.
Let me give you a worst case scenario. Okay, this is the summer time, September, hurricane season. There's an earthquake somewhere in the South Pacific that's 8.7. Wipes out the airport. Okay, we have a fire that was brewing out here in Mono Road, someplace out there. Dry land, fire all over. The runway is closed because the Kona airport is just wiped out because of the earthquake. Now, and the power is going down because the tsunami wiped out the power plant, Keohole. What would the scenario be for you guys to come all together and work on a plan to get, you know, all these emergency systems coordinated for something, a big emergency like that, all at one time?
Now you know why I don't sleep at night. But, you know, when we look at disasters, you got to look at the history, the probabilities, and everything. You know, the current situation, and what you have done previously to prepare. And so, you know, whatever we're dealing with, whatever we're facing, we're only going to be able to handle that when we come together. And so if it's local, we can do that. If it's a statewide, or if we need to go statewide, the other counties, the state will support us. And then we have, we're part of the organization that allows us to go to other states for support. And then, of course, FEMA can support us, the federal government, at all their different levels. So all those impacts you just talked about, no doubt we would be going to that point. Of course, life safety is number one. And then, you know, taking care of everybody, and then, you know, slowly recovering and rebuilding.
What would it take to get the runway extended at the Kamoala airport?
I don't think that's these guys, Kuleana.
I'd just like to respond that I watched what happened in response to the Kilauea eruption and to the pandemic. The community really stepped up. People just came out and helped. I just got so many phone calls from people who were starting up food hubs and feeding people in the community and making masks and providing supplies to Kupuna. So I think that in times of emergency, people step up and really do help, and especially because we all know each other so well that it makes it happen faster.
I'm gonna take 20 seconds while they're talking about it. So for us, I know and we've kind of portrayed some of those scenarios as well and how we could support potentially as military. Being in the Saddle region, we have an airfield that is able to provide C-17 support. It's not a full capability of an airfield, but that's something that we are talking about in the DoD realm to be able to extend our runway, to be able to get full-fledged fixed-wing aircraft in for some relief efforts or whatever in support of FEMA or whatever. But that's something that we're working on to be able to provide support if the airports are Kona or Hilo are affected. So.
The lease is coming up too, right?
Yes.
You're not gonna move until your lease is over.
Patty has a question.
I actually have a question for Kazuo, if I may. What is the status, Chief Todd, of the funding for the aeromedical system that was?
The legislative bill that was, that's dead.
It died, oh God, okay. We need, please ask them if we can help next time around, but you know.
Yeah,
community-
well, it passed through House, made it to Senate, passed through Senate, once it came back to the combined group. And this, you know, was kind of the foresight, and one of the reasons I reached out about getting that testimony in there is that ultimately, because of the amount of money being spent in Maui at the moment to deal with housing, you know, the displaced population that we have over there, the state is really just not looking to spend any money because they're really, really worried about how much this is going to cost us long term. So new programs, new funding, everything is kind of on hold this year at the state level. You know, one of the big things coming out of the Maui fires was they wanted to establish the state fire marshal office again, and even that's just getting the fire marshal and one helper. So I mean, it's as bare bones as possible. You know, anything that had funding that needed to go into it was pretty much on the chopping block from the beginning of the legislative session. Seeing how things go this year. You know, our choppers in theory not going to be here until December of 2025. So we do have one more year of legislative sessions to push forward, and there's still some hope and other things I'm going to be working on to try and finagle things with the governor. So I'll be kind of reaching out to there and seeing if something happens that way. But as of right now, that particular bill is dead at the moment.
Thank you. Just in closing, the two things I wanted to suggest. It's an election year, and you're all going to be talked to by people wanting to seek office or be reelected. Please be talking to them about emergency response and preparedness and funding for these kinds of programs. Whether it's a decent doors for the fire department at the county level or for the new helicopter. There's many ways that emergency response funding is needed. Please talk about that with candidates. And the second thing is, really and truly, we are our own best first responders. We have to be prepared. Please take it seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Rob, we're like 10 minutes over.
It's just a quick comment. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. But in preparedness, we're all from Waimea, and I think being prepared is good, but also you guys need to remember to support the local farmers and the local ranchers. Yeah. Because we are, as a farmer, we are going to be a first responder as well. So just a comment out there.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I want to thank Leland Park and Hawaii Island Food Basket. They brought humanitarian daily rations, which is appropriate, right? So on your way out, everybody in your family gets one, so take what you need. There's several back there. Thank you all very much for being here. The conversation continues, obviously. Thank you. Next month, we're still working on our meeting plans for next month, but it'll likely be on the topics of local watersheds and the state of that, and there's many tree planting efforts taking place in town, so we're gonna explore that. So stay tuned for more. Thank you all for being here, and please drive safely. Thank you.